What's going on, guys? Bengal again here, coming back at you with another video today, reacting to Maurice Jones-Drew's new mock draft. Now, MJD is an interesting analyst, to say the least. I'm not going to discredit him in any way, but he's said some very interesting things in the past, and he never really has much to say. He's one of those guys that instead of telling you how a player is good, he'll say that they have talent, or, you know, something along those lines where it's vague and non-specific. But I'm also joined by Wheels today. You can check him out. Link is in the top line of the description. Wheels FL. He uploads Madden and football stuff as well, getting more into the football side of it on his second channel, which you can find over there. But Wheels, what's going on?
Yo, yo, yo.
And Charlie Casserly's an interesting one we could take a look at later. He's like a senile old man. No disrespect intended. It's just, I think, accurate. But here we go. So, haven't seen this yet, so everything's going to be fresh. But it is also a mock draft. Like, it's an inexact science, to say the least. And, you know, anything's possible on draft night. So, I like when guys go away from the chalk a little bit. But Trevor Lawrence at number 1 feels fine. Zach Wilson at number 2. I mean, everyone's had that. At this point, it feels like that one is pretty good as well. And really, it seems like the draft is starting from number 3 overall. I know people are talking about Mac Jones going at number 3. I just can't see it happening because he's not that good to warrant going number 3 overall. He just isn't.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Justin Fields is well worth going number 3 overall. Ooh, interesting start at number 4. Kyle Pitts to Atlanta. I like this one. I know a lot of Falcons fans want Atlanta to go defense, but is there a defensive player worth taking at number 4? Not really.
No.
Like, Patrick Surtain's good. J.C. Horn's really good. Caleb Farley without injury is really good. But are they really worth taking? Is Jalen Phillips worth taking at number 4 overall with his medical red flags? Probably not, even though he's a really good player. So Kyle Pitts makes sense. Penei Sewell to the Bengals. I like this.
Yeah, these are all trade spots, by the way, in case.
Yeah, Atlanta could move down. I think a team is going to want to move up potentially for a quarterback at that spot. Same with number 5 for the Bengals. However, if the Bengals are picking at 5, and let's say a team trades up to 4, or the Falcons shockingly go quarterback after the Matt Ryan contract change, like, if you move down far enough, you might lose out on Sewell if you want him. So, I'm fine with the Bengals staying at 5. I don't think there are going to be trades in this. There could be. We'll see. As the Dolphins go Jamar Chase. Seems fair to me. True X receiver, number 1 receiver. Nothing too crazy yet from MJD. Oh, so there are trades. There are trades. The Patriots trade up with the Lions to get Mac Jones. Interesting.
Oh, man.
I think if a team's trading up for a quarterback, it's probably going to be Trey Lance, just because he's more of a developmental guy that you can take a shot at. Mac Jones is, you know, maybe a fringe first-round talent. And for the Patriots, who already have Cam Newton, who I know everyone seems to think is terrible despite him having the best deep accuracy on target percentage in the league last year, even though he can't throw the ball more than 5 yards, I hear. I think that if the Patriots move up for a QB, it's got to be Trey Lance, someone that they can develop that doesn't have to play for a year. And you have a super high potential with Trey Lance. Plus, get him in the New England system with Bill Belichick. We've seen how quarterbacks can develop in there and how good they can look. Not even just Tom Brady. How good did Matt Castle look for a year? How good did Jimmy Garoppolo look for a few games when Brady was suspended? You know, they traded a second-round pick, or traded him for a second-round pick to San Francisco. Like, guys can play well in New England. We've seen it happen. So taking a guy that you know is probably going to be okay and maybe never better than that, kind of weird to me, but we've seen Patriots linked to Mac Jones. I just don't love it with Trey Lance still on the board.
The trade-up is what I don't like about it. I don't mind him going to the Patriots, just trading up for him. I don't know.
I saw pick number 9. Things are starting to heat up. Rashawn Slater goes to the Panthers. Rashawn Slater's a really good player. I could see top 10. Especially, like, the Panthers really don't have a solid left tackle right now. They have Taylor Moton, who they franchise tag, but he's a right tackle. And they signed Cam Robinson to maybe play left tackle. I don't remember the last time he played left tackle. Florida State, maybe? So Rashawn Slater could be a solid blindside protector, as MJD remarks there for Sammy D. But number 9, Washington football team trading up for Trey Lance.
Interesting that they traded with the Broncos, who potentially could go QB too.
Yeah, if Trey Lance is on the board at number 9, I feel like Denver would do
Just
well to
draft
just
him.
stay pat and just take a shot at Trey Lance. I like Trey Lance a lot. Accuracy can be hit or miss at times. He's got a really, really high ceiling. He's a really smart quarterback as well. Fun fact about Trey Lance, he was calling out his own protection at North Dakota State, which is kind of rare for a college quarterback to be doing that. So not only is he a guy that has experience recognizing defenses, recognizing potential blitzers, he's calling out the protection schemes for the offensive line prior to each snap. I think that's pretty impressive for a college quarterback. So Trey Lance has it going on upstairs as well as athletically. I think he's just a little bit of a project that is worth taking a shot at. I don't really like the Broncos moving out of 9. That's a good point. But Washington football team, if they can, trade everything and move up to get Lance, I mean, the Broncos probably would consider that for sure. Number 10, Patrick Surtain. I saw the next pick. Okay. Surtain makes sense. I mean, team him back up with Trayvon Diggs. At Bama, who did they re-sign? They re-signed Jordan Lewis. That's not too bad. The Cowboys are kind of a weird team where they do have a lot of talent at a lot of different positions, but they have a ton of holes. They really do. Their linebacking core is interesting. Keanu Neal, I think, is going to play weak side linebacker.
Yep.
He can play Will. So that could be an interesting addition, a linebacker that can actually cover for them. And then number 11, I mean, we know I've wanted this for a little while now. I love Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is the best receiver in the draft, as unpopular as that seems to be. I could understand Jamar Chase being ahead or being receiver 1A to maybe Jalen Waddle's 1B, or Jalen Waddle being down because you're worried about his injury or worried about him playing outside the slot because he hasn't done it a ton, even though he has been good when he's played on the outside, so I really don't think it's an issue. But if you're worried about, lack of experience potentially at Bama and lack of production, you could say, before his injury. Listen, Bama's had the best receivers in the country every single year for the past few years. It's tough to get a ton of targets when you're playing on the field at the same time as Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman last year, and Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs, and Irv Smith Jr., a couple years ago. He's still extremely productive. We see how he impacted the return game. Jalen Waddle is dynamic, and for the Giants that don't really have a true separator, Jalen Waddle makes sense. I will not apologize. I will stay on it. Jalen Waddle of the Giants, I love it. MJD, I think, has done a pretty good job so far. All I care about is number 11, obviously. As we get to the Eagles at 12, Devontae Smith, third receiver off the board. To the Eagles, this one makes sense, obviously. Yep. I think it could still be a cornerback. Like, Darius Slay is a good player, but he's older at this point. And Avonte Maddox is only okay. Cornerback was a really big position of need for them last year, and they've missed on receivers before. I don't think Devontae Smith would be one of them. He's a really good player. I think he's going to be, at worst, solid in the league. Chargers go J.C. Horn. I think this makes a lot of sense. Casey Hayward's gone. Their best corner outside of Chris Harris Jr. is like Mike Davis. Is that his name? I apologize. I can't even recall. It wasn't someone that's been super impactful over the last couple years, but they re-signed him. And J.C. Horn is arguably the best corner in the class. Solid player. So the Chargers improved their secondary. I really feel like they need to address offensive line within the first 2 rounds. I'm also on my Twitch, whatever, so thanks for the follow, whoever that was. I appreciate you. I stream pretty much every night now, so the link to that is in the description below. But I like J.C. Horn to the Chargers at 13. Ooh. This is something that happened in my mock draft with Brett Coleman. The Minnesota Vikings taking Jalen Phillips. He would be the best overall player available at this point. I think he's the best defensive player in the draft from an ability standpoint. It's just medical red flag guy. How early is he going to go? I love Jalen Phillips as a player. I really, 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 really do. But he's a wild card, really. I mean, he was forced to retire. UCLA forced him to retire after his concussions. He had 3 concussions, and then he picked football back up at Miami, and he was really, really good. If he can stay healthy, this is a home run pick for a team that really needs help on the edge. They, of course, no longer have Yannick Ngakoue. He went to the Ravens, and now he's on the Raiders. They no longer have Ifeadi Odenigbo, who's on the Giants now. So what do they have on the edge outside Danielle Hunter? Nothing. Jalen Phillips is a really, really good player that would fit really well in the scheme. Lions go Micah Parsons.
Okay.
Micah Parsons is an interesting player for me. He's kind of like one of those guys that we've heard about him being the best defensive player in the class for months and months and months and months. And then you actually watch him play, and I don't particularly see it. Yeah. Because Parsons is a freak athlete. There's no question about that. Really, really, really good athlete. But as far as a linebacker goes, he really isn't that great of a linebacker. His instincts to play Mike linebacker just really aren't there, and he gets redirected constantly, and he's not good in coverage. Those things are true about Micah Parsons. However, when he can play downhill, he beats blockers to the spot. He fits in these run lanes and blows up plays consistently at times. If he can get a good linebacker coach that can train him how to better play the position and use his natural athleticism, Micah Parsons is going to be a stud. I guarantee it. But right now, he is extremely raw, and I'm not ready to call him, like easily the best defensive player in the class. When I like a lot of other linebackers in this class who can actually cover, who actually have the instincts to play the position, and who are just as athletic in some cases. Cameron McGrone, stud athlete. Jamin Davis, stud athlete. Nick Bolton is Micah Parsons, essentially. Big, strong, fast. Micah Parsons is more athletic, I would say, but they both can't cover, and you probably prefer Nick Bolton as a guy that can blow up the run. So, I don't know. Micah Parsons could be really good. He's going to need some coaching. As we move on to the Cardinals at number 16. Don't mind this. Caleb Farley's a really good player that he's worth taking a shot at if you're the Cardinals, in my opinion, at 16. He's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, like it says, lost Pat Pete, so they need a corner anyway, so I like Caleb Farley.
Yeah, their cornerback depth chart is empty, pretty much. Ooh, number 17. JOK. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I like him as an overhang defender. He's a hybrid linebacker safety, and he fits the Raiders' defense extremely well. I like this pick a lot for the Raiders. They rely heavily on athletic linebackers who can cover, and they really just haven't had that. They thought they were going to get that. Who'd they sign? Corey Littleton, who just hasn't been it. He was good for the Rams. Littleton. He was good for the Rams for maybe a year or two before free agency, but he just hasn't been it in Las Vegas. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, like that pick quite a bit. And this is a really interesting one. Najee Harris, reuniting with Tua at number 18. I like Najee Harris a lot. He's my running back 1. I think it's really close between the 3, though. I think it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, and they all can kind of do different things for you. Najee Harris might be the best mold of the top 3 running backs in terms of what you might want, like power, consistency, ability to catch out of the backfield. He just doesn't have the home run speed that Travis Etienne has. But a running back at number 18, I just don't like it. I don't like it.
A little high.
But MJD is a running back. Also, I don't think it's out of the world or out of the realm of possibility that a team could take a running back inside the top 20. I mean, we've seen it happen all the time. Last year it didn't, and it was a pretty good running back class. It was a pretty good running back last year. Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. J.K. Dobbins, of course, who was arguably the best of all of them last year. What about James Robinson? He wasn't exactly this great prospect. Shout out to him for having a great rookie year, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dolphins could use a running back.
Absolutely.
I think it's Myles Gaskins, the starter right now.
They have Matt Breida, I think, still, too, right? I think they brought him in.
I don't know if he's still under contract. You take a quick look real quick. Matt Breida is on the Buffalo Bills.
Yikes.
So there you go.
Yikes.
The Dolphins have Myles Gaskin, Malcolm Brown, and was it Ahmed?
Yeah, Salvin Ahmed. Yeah.
Yep. Jordan Scarlett, jeez.
Yeah, not exactly ideal, but I don't know. Would you rather
18's a little high still.
Would you rather have Najee Harris at 18 or I love Michael Carter. I would take Michael Carter in round 2 in a heartbeat, but Najee Harris is a great player. I don't hate it.
It's like they could probably get another running or a different running back later in the draft. They could also trade down if they really want to get a running back. But they have pick 36, I think.
Top of the second round, you could go running back there.
Yeah.
But maybe the top 3 would be gone by then. It's a weird spot with running back.
Yeah.
This would be a trade down spot if you're going to look to take a running back probably. The Broncos go Jaylen Mayfield at 19 after trading down from 9. I don't think Jaylen Mayfield is a first-round prospect. Like, he's not really fast enough to play tackle, but he's not really a guard either. I don't know. Mayfield could be a decent player. He struggles with speed rushers, and he really didn't go up against any really, really good edge rushers last year at Michigan either. I don't know. Mayfield's a weird player for me. He didn't test well athletically either. Tested really, really poorly. And very rarely do we actually see poor testing offensive tackles, like really poorly testing offensive tackles, play well. The only one I can really think of offhand is player on Wheel's favorite team for right now, although I don't know for how long, in Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Mayfield is a really solid run blocker who's going to sometimes eat you up in pass pro. And I feel like in the NFL against bigger, stronger, faster edge rushers than he went up against in college, it could be a big problem for him. So if you're going to take tackle at this point, I mean, how do you not go Tevin Jenkins if you're the Broncos? How do you not go Christian Darrisaw? Even though they don't need left tackle, they could move him over. How is Jaylen Mayfield the guy? I just find that to be a little ridiculous. With the tackles currently on the board, why Jaylen Mayfield's name is being called, I have no idea. You could make the argument, oh, right tackle. Tevin Jenkins is on the board and is way better than Jaylen Mayfield. So I absolutely hate that pick. I really do. Bears go Greg Newsome. Gotta love Greg Newsome. Really, really good corner. The Bears need corner after letting go of Kyle Fuller. So.
Oh, I did forget about that.
Oh, yeah. He's on the Broncos now.
Yeah.
They've got a really good secondary rocking. Like, they're trying to bring back that no-fly zone. They released Kareem Jackson so they could free up space to re-sign Kareem Jackson, who has been good for the Broncos. They have Bryce Callahan, who's one of the better slot corners in the league. Kyle Fuller is a really solid corner. Michael Ojemudia played well last year. They signed Ronald Darby. And, of course, how could we not mention Justin Simmons, who's one of the best safeties in the entire league? So the Broncos, they're building up that secondary a little bit. I mean, it's really built. They're not even building it up anymore. It's built. They just need to get some finishing pieces out there. They've got pretty good interior defensive linemen. Edge rusher is strong if Von Miller comes back. Linebacker is weaker. And then on offense, they have playmakers. They're just really looking for that quarterback. All the more reason they shouldn't trade down and take a right tackle in Jaylen Mayfield, who is certainly not the best one on the board. As here's another tackle that is worth taking at 19 if you're taking tackle, and Christian Darrisaw. But I think this is one of those cases, honestly, where MJD is maybe saving a guy like Christian Darrisaw at 21 because he's a really good fit for the Colts. That's the problem, that when you're creating mock drafts, you can't do that. You have to say, oh, man, Greg Newsome would be a really good pick for the Bears at 20. But if a team like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit for most of these teams, right? But we're just using the hypothetical. Maybe the Raiders really need corner. They don't really need corner, but they could. But let's just say the Raiders would take him there, but he's a better fit for the Dolphins at 18, so we'll go with somebody else. You can't do that. And there's no shot the Broncos are taking Jaylen Mayfield over a guy like Christian Darrisaw, in my opinion, if they were to trade down, or even Tevin Jenkins, of course. But Darrisaw is a plug-and-play left tackle to replace Anthony Costanzo, so I think that's one of those instances where he's how would you phrase it?
Like he projected a player, something like that. Not project, but like
there's an expression for it.
Yeah.
Where it's like mocking for like the best fit instead of best available, or what actually have. I don't know. You guys get what I'm saying though.
He's like mocking ahead instead of
mocking ahead. That's probably the best term.
Yeah, instead of just like doing it pick by pick.
Titans go Gregory Rousseau.
Oh.
Another guy who I just don't think is a first-round talent. I did a whole video about Gregory Rousseau months ago. I mean, Wheels and I watched his highlights, a year ago or more, just to get a feel of who he was as a player. I didn't really watch a ton of Miami 2 years ago, or in 2019. Yes, 2 years ago, because Rousseau didn't play in 2020, opted out. And we go, oh man, Rousseau is unbelievable. I remember watching it. We were sharing screen on stream. You go, oh, Rousseau looks crazy. Look at the length. Look at the ability. And then you watch him on tape and you go, oh, this guy can't rush off the edge. He just can't do it. He's a solid edge setter. He's lanky. He's not explosive off the ball. He's got a long first step because he's really lengthy.
Mm-hmm. Takes plays off too.
I don't know about that per se. I think he's just like,
just can't do it.
I think he's just slow. Honestly, he doesn't really move well in space. When I watched him, I never really found a problem with taking plays off. I think he plays with a pretty high motor. He's just not really that explosive of an athlete. I think that's a problem on the defensive line, especially on the edge. So if you're going to take an edge rusher with interior pass rush capability, like at best case scenario, I don't think you do that in the first round. You really don't. Like if you're the Titans, you need edge rusher. Like, I understand that because Harold Landry's going to be a free agent after next season. You might not be able to bring him back. You just signed Bud Dupree. Getting a rotational edge rusher could be pretty good. But Rousseau just isn't a good scheme fit. This is probably a 4-3 defensive end. And if you're going to play him in a 3-4, he's got to bulk up. He played at like 250 or 260. Like, Rousseau really isn't that big for someone that's 6'7". He doesn't have the fundamental strength to play on the inside. He doesn't have the size or the bulk. So I just don't think this is a good team fit for like scheme fit. And I don't think Rousseau's good enough to go at 22. I think a team could take a shot at him. Everyone's talking about these different things. Like, oh, if he just adds 30 pounds, he could play the interior. It's like you're talking about making a guy add 30 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
40 pounds to play interior defensive line.
And then, like, are you going to draft him that high to play interior defensive line if he adds that weight? Like,
and he's still he's not an explosive guy already. And it's like if he were to add 30 pounds to play,
there's a lot of ifs to draft him in the first round.
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind it if it was like a second round pick and you're like, hey, if he adds the weight, it's like it's a little bit less risky. It's just first round. I don't like that.
Like, you gotta love like the length. Like, he has rare length for the position. Really long arms, and it allows him to defend the run pretty well off the edge. But that changes when you're on the interior.
Mm-hmm.
So my best fit for Rousseau is a 4-3 defensive end that can rotate inside on like clear passing downs, or like maybe, I don't want to say a 5 tech because that's like interior defensive line. I don't think he could start at that position. I don't know. It's a weird spot for Rousseau. I don't think he fits the Titans. If the Titans are taking an edge rusher, I think it's going to be a 3-4 outside linebacker that can actually fit the scheme. And with Azeez Ojulari on the board at 22, I think that's someone they'd probably opt to take instead. Or a player like that can fit the 3-4. Jets go Travis Etienne.
Don't hate it.
Don't hate it. I think they have bigger needs, though. With a guy like Eric Stokes on the board. Corner is terrible. Look at the cornerback depth chart for the Jets, and you're like, oh my God. How do they expect to defend any receiver in the league next year? How could you? How could you? Your best cornerback is maybe Bryce Hall on the boundary. That's really, really bad. Now, Bryce Hall was a good player at Virginia, don't get me wrong. But injuries and college guy dropped to what, the 5th round?
Yeah.
There's really not a lot there at corner. Like, not on the boundary at least. But
there's still a pretty good corner out there, so.
Well, there are a bunch
at this trip,
like
Eric Stokes
talked about, Asante Samuel Jr. even.
Yep.
Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky. There are a bunch of really good corners. Azeez Ojulari to the Steelers, though, he's just trying to get the replacement for Bud Dupree.
See, yeah, I was gonna say, like, I wonder if he projected Azeez Ojulari to someone else, like, super quick here.
I think it would have had to be, because even like the Jets would probably consider Azeez Ojulari. I know they signed Carl Lawson, who I think is a great player, but they still don't have a lot on the edge. So even the Jets, I think, would opt to take a defensive player there over Etienne. And when you can take maybe a running back at the top of the 2nd round, Etienne's a good player, though. I don't hate it. It's just, it looks like mocking ahead. I think I like that. I like that a lot. This one, though, for Aziz, I mean, it makes sense if you're just going to say replace Bud Dupree, but they have bigger needs on the offensive line. They have nothing at offensive tackle really right now. They have nothing at center. I mean, their cornerback depth chart is kind of diminished because they don't have Steven Nelson anymore, who's a good player. They lost Mike Hilton. He signed in Cincinnati.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I mean, the Steelers have bigger needs in edge rusher with Alex Highsmith potentially taking a step up after his rookie year last year. He was pretty good.
Yeah, I think this is O-line because they have no one on the offensive line right now except for David DeCastro. That's it. And then, like, secondary could use some help. Absolutely. I don't like the edge pick. I get it, but I don't like it. Ooh.
Well, having coached Holland at KT Prep, he's got the shout-out, oh, I coached this guy. He's got to go round one. But I like Javon Holland a lot. I think there's an argument to be made for him being safety one in the class. Merrick might be better as just a true safety, but Javon Holland bringing nickel flexibility I think is extremely valuable. I don't really see him as a weak side linebacker. I think that's pretty ridiculous, but I like Holland a lot as a player. I think he could be a starting nickel on plenty of teams, and we've seen nickel cornerbacks go, back end of the first before. Noah Igbenogany to the Dolphins a couple years ago now. Or that was last year. So, if you're going to play Holland at nickel cornerback, I don't hate it. But they went out, they brought back Sidney Jones, who's really good. They drafted TJ Henderson round 1 last year, and then they signed Shaquille Griffin. So with having 3 capable corners, I'm not really sure you're drafting a nickel corner at this point. So you're drafting him to play safety, and if you're drafting him to play safety, why not just take Trayvon Merrick? But I really like Javon Holland. I think if you like Holland a little bit better as a player and you like that added flexibility, not that Merrick can't do it either. I don't know. I like Holland a lot. Jags need safety. Andrew Wingard can't be your best safety on roster. He just can't be. He was last year. They signed Rayshawn Jenkins, who guys are going to be high on because he got a lot of money. Rayshawn Jenkins is not anything special. Maybe he will be in Jacksonville. Who knows? But Holland's a good addition. Don't hate the pick, honestly. Don't hate it. Christian Barmore still on the board. I like him to that spot. Kwity Paye still on the board, too. Goes to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Kwity Paye going this far down after Greg Rousseau just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take a guy on the edge who's going to be a really good edge setter that can defend the run, that's Kwity Paye. And Kwity Paye actually, in my opinion, has pass rush upside. He's described as one of the most explosive pass rushers in the draft, or more explosive. That's true in a way. Kwity Paye's an extremely high motor player, not a refined pass rusher. He's really technical as a run defender, though. Really great at utilizing the punch to get off blocks. So he's a guy that you figure can be coached up and develop as a pass rusher. Kwity Paye is one of those guys that isn't the perfect prospect by any means. That could be a really, really, really good player in 3 or 4 years. I like Kwity Paye. I think he's a perfect scheme fit. I don't hate it. But right now as a pass rusher, Paye does not offer a lot. Now for your favorite team. We got the Ravens.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall.
Marshall.
I don't hate it. I mean, receiver is a need on the team. I guess, I would have said edge, but it seems like a lot of the edge is gone at this point in this mock, so... I
mean, Ravens are a 3-4 team that needs really outside linebacker. So there are some guys that fit that mold. I like Joseph Osai still a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think he fits here.
Yeah, they could go a few different ways. Terrace Marshall is not a bad pick, I don't think, though. It's a big receiver that the Ravens just don't have, really, outside of
I mean, I wish...
Miles Boykin.
The Ravens are a tough team to mock for because they do have a number of different ways you could go. Trayvon Merrick's also a potential pick.
Yeah,
especially with him
safety
still being available.
Center, potentially,
and you still have the
just
top
because
two
how
centers
bad
on the board.
It was.
Yep,
how bad center was last year for them.
An Alabama player, Landon Dickerson, on the board, fits the system. I know Ozzy's not drafting anymore, but he's still with the team. I think he has a pretty good track record.
He's still involved.
Players,
he's still involved.
I wouldn't hate Landon Dickerson for them at 27. I really wouldn't.
This smells like a classic Ravens trade out of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
If it sets up like this,
we know the Ravens like to take edge rushers in round 3 anyway, and they just somehow develop them, so they don't really have to take edge here. Seems like they got a pretty good idea about, what guys they like and when to take them and how to develop them. Terrace Marshall's good. He's not really a true separator as much as I would prefer for the Ravens, but he's a big-time, like, jump ball receiver who isn't, like, bad at, creating separation for a bigger guy. He's just not particularly elite there, and it's not like Hollywood Brown is great on a down-to-down basis of creating separation and catching the football. So the Ravens are a tough team because, what type of receiver do you give them? I like Rashad Bateman a lot at this point.
Yeah.
But Terrace Marshall is the pick. Don't hate it.
I would prefer Rashad Bateman.
28, Asante Samuel Jr. Fine fit here. Good man cover corner that can play nickel maybe, but I think he has the ability to play the boundary as well despite being a smaller corner. Asante Samuel Jr. is a good player. It's a weaker cornerback depth chart outside Marshawn Lattimore, so Asante Samuel Jr. makes sense. 29, Packers go Rondale Moore.
Ooh, what?
I don't hate it, honestly. It's a big-time playmaker to go along with Aaron Rodgers. I think this is about the range that you could see Rondale Moore go off the board. I think corner is a really big need. And if you are going to take Rondale Moore, like, why not consider some of the receivers down the board that you can get in round 2? Like
Rashad
Dwayne Eskridge. Or I'm saying that the type of player that Rondale Moore could be. Like Elijah Moore you could trade back up for maybe, or take him even here at 29. I like Elijah Moore a lot more than Rondale, even though every time I talk about either one of these guys, like in the same video, I keep interchanging their name. Rondale Moore's a really good receiver. He was really good. And here's Elijah Moore. He's a good route runner. I'm like, what am I talking about? But I don't realize I'm even doing it. I just look at my notes or whatever, and I see both the names on there, and one of them flies out because they have the same last name.
He better not be dropping the ball.
Yeah.
The body catcher.
Yeah, Rondale Moore is not a polished receiver, but he's an extreme playmaker. I don't mind him in the first at all. Even if I, don't see him as a first-round receiver, he could be a first-round player, and you can find a way to use him. At 30, Elijah Vera Tucker is still on the board at 30. That's what I kind of forgot about.
Yeah, why wouldn't the Ravens take him?
Well, because they don't really need guard as much as they need center. And Vera Tucker's not a center. He's like a guard tackle.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know why the Bills would take a guard, though. It's not like it's a super big position of need for them, especially when they brought back John Feliciano, who's solid at right guard. I know that you're probably taking him to play left guard, but when you need edge more and you need corner more, and you could even take running back at this point if you like Javonte Williams, I think that'd be a pretty good addition to the team. Back end of the first round, maybe you look to do that. Or, I think corner edge are going to take precedent over Elijah Vera Tucker at this point, but maybe it's best player available. I just don't love it for the Bills. 31, Jason Oweh to the Chiefs. Okay, interesting. Haven't seen the Chiefs go edge in many mock drafts, but I don't hate it. It's not a super strong position for them. Like, Frank Clark really wasn't too good of a player even last year, so I think he's just naming any Chiefs defensive lineman he can think of. Tano Passanio is a decent player on the edge. He's nothing special, though. Oweh is a developmental edge rusher with a lot to work with. Great athlete, huge guy, multiple piece of clay. And when he flashes as an actual technical pass rusher, he's good. The hands can be good. He just doesn't really have much of a pass rush plan, and he needs to use those hands more often. But yeah, he's interesting to the Chiefs. Maybe best player available.
Yeah, I prefer O-line for them just because both of their tackles are gone. But
I don't love this pick for the Bucs.
What?
Like, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a really, really, really good player, and I think you'd use him in the same way that you use Trayvon Merrick. And then you have Jordan Whitehead at the other safety, who really isn't much of a cover guy. He's really good in run defense. Like, Trayvon Merrick could fit on this team, depending on how you use Whitehead, and if you want to go with like more nickel or dime packages, Merrick could play like true safety spot. Antoine Winfield Jr. could maybe play more of like an overhang, and you could have like two overhang defenders on either side, obviously. One would be like maybe Sean Murphy Bunting, and the other one be Antoine Winfield Jr. with Merrick over the top, or Whitehead in like that box type role. I don't know. It's kind of a weird pick. I don't hate it per se. Like, I'm not saying that this is best player available. I think the Buccaneers would go Christian Barmore at this point back into the first round with Barmore still on the board. And you can upgrade your interior defensive line depth, which I think if you're adding a depth player, that would be better. For Ndamukong Suh, who's getting really, really old. Vita Vea is a really good player, but Barmore could be your like 3 to 5 tech, depending on like what look they want to show for the next, 4 or 5 years easily. Because Ndamukong Suh is not going to be around forever, and then boom, you have a big replacement or you have a big player to replace. So I just don't think Merrick makes a lot of sense. I think with the receiver talent still on the board, take Rashad Bateman. I mean, you took Tyler Johnson last year out of Minnesota. Maybe take a player out of Minnesota that's a better receiver. You have Chris Godwin playing under the franchise tag. So if you don't bring Chris Godwin back next year, let's say the Bucs don't make the Super Bowl and Godwin's like, all right, I can go somewhere else now. And even if they win the Super Bowl, he's like, maybe I got 2. I can go play somewhere else, get a ton of money. Your best receiver outside of Mike Evans is Scotty Miller. Like, no disrespect to Scotty Miller. He's like a fine young slot receiver. He cannot be your number 2. Can't be your number 2. And maybe you think Tyler Johnson can ascend to that role, despite only having like, he might have 10 career catches, including the
just haven't seen it.
Yeah,
just haven't seen it.
So Merrick's kind of a weird pick for me. Even take a running back at this point if you love like running backs going off the board. But Trayvon Merrick's a little weird to this team. Again, I don't hate it if you're going to play more dime, because they have 3 really capable corners in Carlton Davis on the boundary and Jamel Dean on the boundary and Sean Murphy-Bunting either on the boundary or in the nickel. And then Antoine Winfield Jr. we talked about is a guy that can play the nickel or over the top or be too high with Jordan Whitehead, who's more of a box guy. It's kind of a weird one, but if you're gonna come out with like 6 DBs, it makes more sense, or 5 DBs even, depending on maybe you don't bring out the 3 corners or Whitehead goes to the bench. I'm not sure. But interesting mock draft. I don't hate it overall. I really don't. It's a mock draft. What are you going to do? I think there are some particularly weird picks. What was your favorite and least favorite pick of the mock? I think my favorite was, I don't know. What was my favorite pick? I'm trying to think.
If there's a favorite here.
Because
least favorite is
my favorite's Jalen Waddle. That's my favorite.
My least favorite's probably not 7. Was it 9?
Trey Lance.
It just doesn't make sense that the Broncos would trade down.
The whole Broncos situation was weird. I think my least favorite pick of the mock draft,
or Greg Rousseau.
Yeah, Rousseau just doesn't make any sense to the Titans, honestly. I'm sure it'll happen now and I'll look like an idiot, but to me, he's not a scheme fit, and he's not a player worth taking at this point. So I'm not really sure I get it. Overall, my least favorite pick, it has to be either Trey Lance or something down the board a little bit. Because I think probably it's Jaylen Mayfield to the Broncos at 19. Tevin Jenkins didn't even go round 1. If you're gonna take Jaylen Mayfield, take a better player at right tackle than Tevin Jenkins. Weird.
Yeah, it's not a bad mock draft. We've seen a lot worse.
Yeah, and it's a mock draft. Anything can happen.
And
if you're going to follow the chalk, you're going to be incorrect long term. So appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to check out Wheels, top line of the description. Check out my second channel. I'm uploading on there every day right now. So please subscribe to that. Link is also in the description. And be sure to tweet at me. It's an easier way to get in contact with me instead of the hundreds of potentially thousands of YouTube comments I get. So check me out. Follow me on Twitter. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
Goodbye.
I hit it at the park, Ben Bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah. Promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah. Papa turn taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speed burst good.